Hey, so it's been about 3 months since I posted a video saying why you should buy Nintendo stock. And, there was a lot of interesting points that I wanted to make in that video, and I think I succeeded in the most part. But now it's been 3 months, and is it still a good idea to buy Nintendo? And what do I think about Nintendo going forward? In the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I think Nintendo is an interesting company. They're good at innovating for the most part. They do things, they're willing to take chances and risks and follow what they believe. Like when they have an idea that they think is good, they generally follow it whole hog, even after most people think they should abandon it or try something different. So that can be a good thing, if they're right, then you have a Wii situation, their best-selling console, home console, at like 105 million units, and that's them like presenting a new idea, and I wouldn't say over supporting it, but at least really, making sure people get the fun, understand the fun, and have fun with the system. I remember thinking, even before the Wii was about to come out, or maybe shortly after, I can't remember exactly when the specs and all that came out, but I remember being like, I still want. Sorry, phone died. So they have basically, I wanted a console that played Nintendo games and, did what it does, but doesn't. I mean, I didn't even think about gimmicks then, but I just wanted something that had power, something that's as powerful or almost as powerful or even more powerful than, the PlayStation or the Xbox counterpart. So when we got the Wii, it wasn't that, obviously. It was motion controls, it was Wii Sports. But hey, it did really well. So their gamble, their vision paid off for them. So when Wii U came out or was announced, when we heard specs, you really were like, okay, we just did the gimmick thing and it was okay. And I had some fun for a while, but I ended up being inundated with shovelware, and you had some great software, a couple of Mario Galaxy games, but I don't want a gimmick. I want a powerful home console that can play Nintendo games and maybe play third-party games too. If Nintendo, I mean, personally, I think if Nintendo had a system that could play and had access to all the third-party games that the other two companies have access to, and had their own first party, AAA titles that we've all come to know and love, I think it'd be an amazing success for them. Like, why would you ever buy a Sony or a Microsoft console if all you're getting was Gears of War and God of War and Halo and, I don't know, Team Eco's game? I mean, now we're getting new properties like Horizon Zero Dawn, which I'm just playing now and I like, and it's really good. And it's funny that it comes out basically, 3 or 4 days before the new Zelda, and it's like, if you want to play high res and, sort of modern combat systems and ideas, here's this game. If you don't want that, here's the, here's a game that you have known for a long time, but with the open world spin, and I'm hearing great. I don't have a Switch yet. I'm waiting to get one, and that brings us back to, well, Nintendo, right? Do we invest in Nintendo? And I find it interesting that in 2017, they're still dealing with supply constraints. I feel like they have always dealt with supply constraints, and I don't think that's something that isn't unintentional. In other words, I do believe they allow themselves to have supply constraints because they have the money. they have the foresight. They've been doing this for 30 years. They understand. I mean, they made a pretty big fumble with the NES Mini. Like, it's such a good deal for people who, are interested in that nostalgia and in those games. It's a fantastic deal. It's nice and easy. It looks like a lot of fun. You can't get them. And it's like months afterwards and you still can't get them. And you could have maybe even charged more, How about you add another million units, double the size? These things don't cost very much to produce, and you sell them for a little bit more, and wow, like you're just going to be making a lot of money from thin air almost, like these games have already been made. Like you have to do a little optimization maybe, or something to customize it to this format that you're putting it in. But man, like there's millions and millions to be made there, and they don't. And why is because at their heart, I mean, even though they like to innovate and have fun and try different things, they are a conservative company. This is a Japanese company that's been around for 100 years. They don't want to risk a lot of money unnecessarily, so they don't. And here we go again with the Switch. And, they could have made enough Switches to have everyone on day one that wants one have one. And a couple more on top of that. I mean, there's not even enough Pro controllers. Like Shane Satterfield from Sifted Games today on their podcast, on their Game Face podcast, which I highly recommend. It's a fantastic podcast and you should subscribe to it. You should subscribe to Sifted. A lot of great, useful information there. He's saying there's not even a 1-to-1 Pro controller to Switch ratio. So there are less Pro controllers for the Switch than there are Switch units. And, he makes a good point about that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you make a 1-to-1 ratio and you have 50,000 Pro controllers left over, 100,000 Pro control, like if that many people don't buy one when they're buying Zelda, which they probably are, then you will sell them. You'll just sell, it just will happen next week or the week after that. So they're very conservative, and that unfortunately means they're not as profitable and as strong as they could be. Now, that's not the the meaning of life. That's not. I mean, it's the kind of the point of a publicly traded company is to provide profit for your investors and to be a profitable company. And they definitely strive for that. I mean, it was the Wii success was fantastic for Nintendo. I mean, maybe it was bad for Nintendo in a way because it gave them sort of a misunderstanding of what the direction they should be going. Maybe but if you ask anybody that's known Nintendo for more than 10 years, like before the Wii, they are most of the time going to say the same thing, which is give us a powerful home console that can play all the games. Like, you have the best first party games, period. Like, you have the best properties. You don't, like, you can, like, they're getting by with only those properties. That's how good those properties are. If they had third party, then man, it makes a huge difference, And then, success breeds more success, because then you can afford more second-party companies to make exclusive content for you. And then suddenly you're crushing the competition, right? Like, Nintendo could sell 50 million units. They could sell maybe 100 million units if they, hit all the points that they need to hit. And unfortunately, they only hit a few of them these days. They hit the creativity point. They hit, they generally make really good games. The Zelda game, like I said, is getting ridiculously good scores across the board. With the frame rate issues I've been hearing and stuff, a little bit of that nostalgia bump is happening. The little Zelda bump is, taking it to 10, whereas any other game, if Horizon had the technical difficulties that Zelda's having, it wouldn't be getting the scores it's getting. But, people love Zelda, and I'm really looking forward to playing this game. I was looking forward to playing it since I first saw it at E3, You know, you got Link jumping up off the thing and shooting the bow in slow motion, and it's like this crazy creature you hadn't seen before, and it's like, that's the kind of, you know, you love the art, and that's what Nintendo is good at. You know, they give you that excitement that you're not going to get from, you know, most of the new properties you haven't heard of, or properties that have been around for a while. You know, they seem to do something really exciting with their properties most of the time, and we just want to see them do more of that. So my thinking is, you know, it's been 3 months since my last video, and I said I thought Nintendo was a buy. It was around the same price it is as now. It was around $25, $26. And I feel at that level, it's still worth investing in. You know, they have a lot of money in the bank, really old company. You know, we don't always agree with all their decisions. They are profitable. They're a successful company. They could be more successful, but that's, you know, maybe some good fortune down the road. You'll get even more than you're hoping for a return because they were more successful than anybody's anticipating. And that's usually when a stock does well, actually, is when something unexpected like that happens. You know, companies like, say, Rockstar, Take-Two, when, you know, every year they want to be kind of conservative on their predictions of how well something does. And then when you have like a Red Dead Redemption that comes out of nowhere, you know, to sell way more units than anybody thought, you know, people get even more excited. So, you know, it can be a good thing. I'm thinking Nintendo has still got the mobile plan. You know, it's, again, their experiment. Super Mario Run was kind of an experimental, ironically, charging, you know, just a one-time price for a mobile game, which is something I've generally thought I would do if I could do a mobile experience, because as a consumer, I don't like microtransactions. I don't like feeling like, you know, you're always trying to suck more money out. You know, it's kind of funny. It's like the old arcade style, right? Like they would make, I mean, the arcade game as it was back in the day, you know, Defender, Missile Command, Galaga, Pac-Man, like all these things, Donkey Kong, they were designed to eat your quarters. Like that was the purpose. When you're sitting down as a game designer, it's like, yeah, you're going to make a game, but you're going to make a game in the world that this game is going to cost $0.25 to play it, and you're going to get 3 lives or whatever it is. So there's that evolution, but it's kind of come full circle now, because now you're getting microtransactions that we've had for a number of years now. And yeah, it's the same kind of where we just want your money. And here's a game we've devised to get some money out of you. And the game mechanics are going to kind of work with it, right? And unfortunately, you know, that's all. I mean, for me, I don't really enjoy that too much. I mean, I play Hearthstone, but it's not designed to take my money. I haven't had to pay any money on it, and I've got lots of gold and cards and everything I need. So Nintendo's done this a couple of different ways now. They had a completely free experience with Miitomo that I believe you could pay for gold coins to like get outfits and whatever. And then Super Mario Run, which is like a one-time pay this, you unlock the game, you get free to start, you get to try the first world, and then you can pay if you want the whole thing. By the way, investors didn't like that so much because of the ceiling that puts on the potential amount of money a consumer could spend. Going back to my point is why I don't like to spend them lots and lots of money on it and endlessly. And so after that, they have the Fire Emblem game, and we haven't. I've tried it out a little bit. I guess it's more heavier on the microtransactions, but probably more meaningful than the Miitomo ones. I mean, how could it not be? So, you know, they're kind of cutting their teeth in the mobile space, and, you know, it might take them a little while, but if they can nail it, that's going to be fantastic for them. Again, there's more phones in the world than I think there are people, so that's your biggest audience. I mean, you try to sell games to people who own Wii U consoles, the best you could do is, 13, 14 million copies of a game, right? Cell phones, 8 billion cell phones, 7 billion cell phones. You know, if you sell to 1/100% of that, that's probably even better than selling to all the Wii U. So that's a great opportunity for them. man, Nintendo, why don't you make a card game? Why don't you make a card game with Mario and Donkey Kong and Bowser? And like that has huge potential. So then there's theme parks. I don't really know much about the theme parks, but I'm sure that can only generate them so much money. It's not going to be a home run. And then, they'll have likely another console in 4 or 5 years. A lot of people say, why don't they just stop making consoles and make their games, license them, or make them for, a PlayStation or Xbox or the computer. And they could very well do that. I mean, they could do that and make their own console that played their games and other people's games. And I mean, they have so much potential. It's just, they just don't, I don't know. They just are cautious about their approach, and they, they take, maybe you could call them calculated risks, and they have a vision, they have an idea. I mean, they think of video games still kind of as a toy, I think. Going back to the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, not a video game system. It was a video game system, but they didn't call it that. And they were making toys before that. So I think they always approach it from the delight of the consumer. And I think Reggie will say that they like to delight and engage their consumers. And, that's actually a pretty wonderful place to come from. In that sense, they're not like, hey, we want your quarter. They're like, we just want you to enjoy the experiences we give you. And, we're going to have to charge you for that because experiences aren't free. But, just joy is kind of what they say they're coming from, the place that they're coming from. So that just means it's not going to go like once in a while. You're going to have maybe a Wii situation where you sell 100 million units and you have a huge success beyond your wildest dreams. And then you're going to have a couple of more, situations where you're just kind of selling 15 million units or 20 million units and just kind of getting by. So, time's going to tell. I think they'll land on their feet. So I think if you're going to invest in Nintendo, I mean, it would take something significant for them to lose much value. If they have to report a horrible quarter, they have to recall all the Switches, like some major event would have to happen for them to probably drop below $24. If you want to see them at, $30, it's probably, that could happen within the year. It could be, a couple of quarters of like, we've had fantastic Switch sales. If they get close to 8 million Switches sold, 8 to 10 million in the fiscal year, then you're looking at a pretty good share price, I think. If you sell 5 million Switches in the fiscal year, you're probably going to be up a couple of bucks. Like we're at 25, 26 today over the last week. I would say you might get to, $27, $28. And, Nintendo does pay a dividend. So they encourage their shareholders to stick around with them. So if you're a day trader, obviously I'm not talking to you, but for people who want to hold on for a couple of years or, so 5 years, man, like 5 years, they're looking at potentially a new console. Man, hear this? That's me knocking on wood that it doesn't have a gimmick. The Switch has a gimmick. You can take it out of the dock, take it away from the TV, take it on a plane. It's a gimmick, unfortunately. And every time they have a gimmick, it comes at the cost of pure performance every time. So we are ended up with not the home console that we want, but another Nintendo gimmick, unfortunately. So maybe they reiterate on the Switch in the next couple of years, make it more powerful because it's definitely underpowered. But maybe, in 5 years, like they have to already be thinking about their next console. And if it comes out in 5 years and it's another gimmick thing that does another 10 to 20 million units, that could hurt the price of the stock, I think. If they just keep trying the same thing and failing, you're going to lose investor confidence. but maybe they decide to become a second party or a third party developer, and suddenly, they're taking advantage of the PS4 and the Xbox One's install base. That'd be fantastic. I guess it'll be the PS5 and the Xbox Two by then. Scorpio 3.1. I mean, who knows, right? If they don't do that, I'm not excited about the stock price. If they do that, wow, you could be talking $35, $40. I mean, pretty easily. If they start dominating mobile, as well, on top of that, man, like there's a lot of potential here. That's the thing. You're looking at a company that's kind of pretty safe, because it's really like the Wii U caused the stock price to drop down to like $16, $17, and if you got in at that time, that was a bargain, because it's been as high as like $38 since then because of the whole Pokemon Go thing. But oh man, it's not likely to go down too much. Like if for 2 years from now and the Switch has sold 4 million units, well, geez, I hope you're not in the stock still, because it's probably going down at that point. But over the next 2 years, they should sell 8 million units, which is still probably a bit on the low side for what you'd want to see as an investor. But so again, unless something catastrophic happens, or the Switch is just a failure out of the gate, if people are just, and they already are, some people saying Wii U 2, right? That could have a negative effect, a reasonably negative effect on the price. Otherwise, you're looking to stay around the same, maybe up $1 or $2, or maybe $3 or $4 if the Switch is actually doing pretty good over the next year or two. And then if it goes up, if things start going amazing for them, they start making some really good decisions. They start producing enough supply. They start making a powerful enough system. Like, how come Sony and Microsoft? I mean, Sony. Well, I mean, what was the price of the PS4 when it came out? It was, today it's cheaper than a Switch, and it's more powerful. I mean, much significantly more powerful. And so Nintendo could have made the same level of power PS4 that Sony's making right now for about the same price as they're selling it for now. I mean, just use the same parts, and then, hey, you can port your games over to our system super easily. And you don't have to worry about portable battery life and all this other weird stuff that Switch is doing, and these Joy-Cons that have the HD rumble and stuff. I mean, it sounds like fun for 5 minutes. If you come up with what's the compelling experience you're going to come up with? What's the killer app for HD rumble? Where it's just like, I'm addicted to this rumble game. It's just like I can't get enough. I mean, you can only do so much, right? I mean, your quality is in the games, and that's where they should put their focus. So remind everybody, thanks for watching the video, and give it a like and a share, all that stuff if you feel like it. No pressure. But I do not own any Nintendo stock, nor have I or plan to in the last 72 hours or in the next 72 hours. This is just my thoughts from being a Nintendo fan since the NES, since before the NES, since playing Mario, Game & Watch, and Mario in the arcade, and I just, I watch the market, and I watch this company, and these are my thoughts. So thanks again. Have a good day.